Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for coming today. Earlier today, Sue Gray published her final report, which I commissioned to get to the bottom of things and to set the record straight. And I'm grateful to her for her work. She's identified a number of failings, some official, some political, and some that I accept are entirely my own, for which I take full responsibility. I want to start by saying that I'm humbled by what has happened, and I renew my wholehearted apology for the gathering in the Cabinet room on the 19th of June 2020, my birthday, for which I received a fixed penalty notice. Now that Sue Gray has completed her inquiry and everyone can read her report, I want, in all humility and without mitigating what has happened, to offer a few points of context. 10 Daunинг-стріт is not just my official residence, but the headquarters of the government, where hundreds of people work, and because they directly support the Prime Minister, the regulations allowed them to continue attending their offices for work purposes throughout the lockdowns. Sue Gray describes them as tight-knit groups of officials and advisors who worked long hours under difficult conditions. These were the public servants who secured the PPE that saved many lives, established the biggest testing program in Europe, and enabled the development and distribution of the vaccines that succeeded in protecting so many people. When some of these officials and advisors were leaving their jobs, I briefly attended gatherings to thank them for everything they had done, because I believe that recognizing achievement and preserving morale are essential duties of leadership. The police did not find my attendance at these occasions to be a breach of the rules, but they found otherwise in respect of some of those gatherings after I had left or when I was not in the building. Daunинг-стріт and the Cabinet Office together have hundreds of rooms, and again, I say this not in any way to extenuate my personal responsibility, but to give context to these events. And I was in particular appalled to learn that there have been multiple examples, in Sue Gray's phrase, of disrespectful and poor treatment of cleaning and security personnel. And this afternoon I personally apologised to those dedicated members of staff for what happened, and I expect anyone who behaved in that way to do the same. As Sue Gray acknowledges, I have acted on her recommendations to make a series of changes. 10 Даунинг-стріт now has its own permanent secretary charged with upholding the highest standards. I've appointed a new leadership team, including a new chief of staff and a new principal private secretary. And I've made it easier for any member of staff to voice any worries they may have. And Sue Gray says that she is reassured by this reform. And it is precisely because I have learned this lesson that I feel an even greater weight of responsibility to deliver on the priorities of the British people and lead our country through some of the most challenging times in recent history. I will work every hour to ease the hardship caused by the rising cost of living, to protect our nation from the aftershocks of COVID, to stand firm against Putin's aggression and unite and level up across our United Kingdom. That is the mission that drives this government, and that is the mission I will continue to pursue. Thank you all very much for coming. We're going to try and get as many questions in as possible. Can I just say one thing? We'll have a chance to have more questions if everybody can bear to confine herself to one question each. Let's go first to Chris Mason of the BBC.
Thank you, Chris Mason from BBC News. Prime Minister, address our viewer today who hears all of this and questions your character, your judgment, your integrity and your willingness to tell the unvarnished truth. Bluntly, talk to our viewer, convince our viewer that you're not tempted or willing to lie to get out of a tight spot.
No, I thank you very much, Chris, and I hope that the imaginary viewer, I hope it's not an imaginary viewer, I hope we've got several viewers right now. I just say to that person, look, I've tried to explain as clearly as I can what happened, why I said what I said to the House of of Commons. The event for which I have been found to be at fault, I've tried to explain the event in the cabinet room, and on July 19, 2020, where I was basically standing at my desk for a brief period, surrounded by some other colleagues, and then I've tried to explain the context of why I was at other events where I was saying farewell to valued colleagues. And I know that people will think some people will think it was wrong even to do that. I have to say I respectfully disagree. I think it was right. When people are working very hard for very long hours, when they're giving up a huge amount to serve their country, and they're moving on to some other part of government, I think it is right to thank them, or leaving government service altogether. I think it is right to thank them. And I repeat what I said in the Commons earlier on. I believe that they were work events. They were part of my job, and that view appears to be substantiated by the fact that I wasn't fined for those events. For the rest, I just want to say, I appreciate that things didn't go in the way that I would have wanted. The events proceeded afterwards in the way that I certainly wouldn't have wanted to see. What happened with the custodians was plainly, and the cleaners was plainly, utterly unacceptable. And I apologise for that, as I've apologised to them personally. Harry Cole, the Sun.
Thank you, Prime Minister. On that point, sick was left in corridors, wiring up the walls, left for cleaners to clean up. Staff who work for you were rude to security members in this building. What steps are you taking beyond asking them to say sorry? And is there a place in your administration for that sort of behaviour? And if I may, you were rather coy in the House of Commons earlier when asked directly by one of your MPs if you ever asked Sue Gray not to publish her report subsequent to the police investigation. Do you want to clear that up now? Did you infer at any point to Sue Gray that publication might not be necessary?
No. So look, on that, it's impossible for the terms of reference make it absolutely clear that Sue has got to publish a report, and I think it's entirely right that she has, and I think that the what she's published is, you couldn't. I don't think anybody could reasonably say, look, reading that report, that an awful lot has been swept under the carpet. To be absolutely frank with you, but I would just say on the behaviour of staff and the alleged rudeness. It is. I don't know who is specifically is guilty of that. So in the course of my apologies today, I began to make some inquiries, and I will of course continue them. And as I said earlier on, if people have been, I think it's utterly intolerable for people to be rude to hard-working staff, and at the very least that they should apologise. But I don't yet have the names of those who were responsible. Matt Fry, Channel 4.
Prime Minister, we are sitting, or standing in your case, in the place that flouted the rules that were made here more than any other institution in the country. You yourself have made history by becoming the first Prime Minister to break the law while in office. Now, you talk about other people who've insulted staff and so on, but I want to know what you think your own personal failings were in creating the culture that allowed this to happen.
I think, Matt, the best thing I can invite you to do is look very carefully at what Sue has said, and if you read her report and you look at the detail in which she describes, you talk about me, my own participation in the events, what I did, how long I was there, and so on. I think you get a pretty fair picture of what took place. That does not mean that I don't accept responsibility for the totality of what happened. And yes, I bitterly regret it. And that's why we've taken steps since the interim report, in particular, to drive a lot of change in Number 10 and the way Number 10 works, and to ensure that there are much clearer lines of command, and everybody understands, the difference between being engaged in work and in socialising. And I think that is the crucial thing. Jason Groves, Daily Mail.
Thanks. Your principal private secretary appears to have been organising parties against advice. He seems to have been boasting about it, about getting away with it. Why didn't you stop him? And more broadly, is anyone in Whitehall government going to face any sort of disciplinary process as a result of this sorry saga?
Yes. So first of all, Jason, I don't want to comment on individuals who are named in the report. I don't think it's right for politicians to talk about officials in that way, any official. What I can say is that I think that we've all no. So I want to be clear. I didn't know that. For instance, a lot of the stuff that I saw in the report this morning, was news to me. But I think it's important. Let me put it this way: I think it's important that everybody who's named, everybody who hasn't been named, everybody who's in any way involved in this whole business has got to learn the lessons, and that applies to everybody in the report. Tom Harwood, GB News.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The fines that were issued across Daunинг-стріт and the whole of Whitehall were for events that took place over varying levels of restriction. It took months of investigation to determine whether a number of edge cases broke the rules that you set or not. Indeed, you said earlier in Parliament that it can be very difficult to decide the boundary between what qualifies as work and what qualifies as socialising. So in hindsight, were the rules that you set simply too unclear, too illogical, and too tight for too long? And just, if I may, on another issue that really does affect people up and down the country, real wages are projected to be lower in 2026 than they were in 2008. What are you going to do about it?
So first of all, Tom, on the rules, we had to implement, and this is a controversial thing, and there are many people who think that you could have done without restrictions. You could have just relied on people's personal responsibility. The difficulty was that we were facing a pandemic of a kind that we'd never seen before, or certainly not in my lifetime. Its effects were unknowable, and all the medical and scientific advice was that you had to proceed by non-pharmaceutical interventions. You had to get people to behave according to certain rules. So I don't think the flaw was with the rules, Tom. I've got to, we should have recognised that the boundary between work events and socialising for people who are continuously working together in the same place was going to be hard to draw, and things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently from now on. On your point about incomes, which is the crucial thing, and look, the COVID pandemic cost the government a huge. It cost taxpayers $408 billion just to support businesses and support families through the pandemic. It's left a very difficult fiscal position. Employment is very strong. Some features of our economy are extremely strong, but there's no doubt because of the global supply chain shocks exacerbated by what Putin has done in Ukraine, by the spike in the price of energy. We're going to see pressures for a while to come. I've just got to be realistic with people about that. We're going to see pressures on household finances. So what I'm saying to people is that we will continue to respond, just as we responded throughout the pandemic. It won't be easy, and we won't be able to fix everything. But what I will also say is that we will get through it, and we will get through it well. And that we have some fortunate fundamentals, not least the lowest unemployment rate since 1974. That we have strong a strong labour market. We have a lot of firms who are looking to hire people, looking to grow, and that augurs well for the future. But there's no question we have pressure now on household finances. Everybody knows it, everybody can feel it, and believe me, the government is going to do everything we can to help people. Let's go to Esther Weber, Politico.
No, I mean, that's it. Given everything we've heard and what you said about the boundaries not being properly drawn, what can you say to reassure us that you and the officials you appoint to the top jobs are capable of being the grown-up in the room?
Thank you, Esther. I think that I mean, just on me in particular, and my role, I just remind you of what I have said, and I hope I won't seem to be pernickety when I say that I thought the things that I was attending were work events. I thought that my job was to thank people for their contribution to public life, to government service. But plainly, we all made mistakes, and we have to learn from them. It is no mitigation, but it's helped set the context that these were really, really exceptional circumstances. But then they were exceptional for everybody in the country, and I accept that. Beth Rigby, Sky.
Thank you. Prime Minister, vomit, drunken altercations, security staff being treated with contempt, cleaners having to mop up red wine. Sue Gray's a shame in dossier, really, isn't it, of what's meant to be the place, the heart of government that sets the standards of our country. And it's your culture under your leadership. Did you never for a moment during the past 5 months, or even this morning when that report landed on your desk and you read it blow by blow, think about resigning? A poll out today, just out, says 3 in 5 Britons think you should.
Yes, Beth, of course I understand why people are indignant and why people have been angry at what took place. All I can say is that I really think that given everything that is going on right now, it's my job to get on and serve the people of this country, not just to get us through the biggest war in Europe for 70 years, but a huge spike in the cost of living, and to deliver our manifesto commitments on which I was elected with a large majority. So I hear you, I understand you, but I really feel it's my job to get on.
Was there any point you thought about it, though? Because during any of it, did you ever think this?
Why are only you allowed to come back, Beth? It shows you have some special position. Okay, forgive me. Well, look, I mean, I just repeat my point. I think that I overwhelmingly feel it is my job to get on and deliver, and no matter how bitter and painful the conclusions of this may be, and they are, and no matter how humbling they are, I've got to keep moving forward, and the government's got to keep moving, and we are. And just this week we're getting on with things that, again, delivering on things that have been left undone for a very long time, trying to fix the legacy issues in Northern Ireland. Incredibly difficult thing to do. Government for decades have shirked it, but we're getting on and doing it. And I was pleased to see that at least Peter Mandelson is supporting what we're doing, even if the current opposition is not. We will get on and continue to do the tough things. Jess Elgott, The Guardian.
Prime Minister, people in this room told us that there were no parties. People from your press office told us there were no parties. And we now know that parties took place in the press office. Were those people told to lie to us? Yeah. And do you concede now that they did lie?
Well, Jess, I don't know exactly what they told you, but my having talked to people in this building about what happened and what was said, it's my strong impression that they genuinely believed that what they were doing was working, and they were working round the clock, and they did not think that what they were doing was in conflict with the rules. That's what they told me, and so I certainly don't think that they set out to deceive you about that. But plainly, if you look at what Sue has found, and if you look at what the Met have found, that simply wasn't right, and we've got to accept it, and we've got to recognise that mistakes were made, and we've got to. I've made a lot of changes already, and we'll continue to make changes. But I think the best thing I can do is continue to repeat the apologies that I've given, but also to stress that I think we just have to try, if we possibly can, to continue with the people's priorities, and we certainly can, and we will. And on that point, Paul Brand, ITV.
Prime Minister, Prime Minister, you said so far this afternoon that some of this rule breaking was news to you. You told MPs, you told us all categorically that no rules were broken, but this is your home. You saw what was going on, you participated in what was going on, you made the rules as Prime Minister, so it does beg the question, are you a liar?
Well, Paul, I think you've no, but look at what I said to Parliament, and look at what Sue has said about what took place, and about my role in it. I just to get back to what I said, I think in the first answer. Okay, I was in the cabinet room for a short period, standing up at my desk on June the 19th, 2020, and some people came in to congratulate me on my birthday. Now, there weren't very many of them. It didn't occur to me then that this was a breach of the rules. I'm going to be absolutely frank with you. It didn't occur to me. It really didn't. And I think, that's just the way it was. Similarly, when I was speaking to colleagues about the departure of another SPAD or a government advisor or an official, it didn't occur to me that this was anything except what it was my duty to do as Prime Minister during a pandemic. And that's why I did it. And that's why I spoke as I did in the House of Commons. And yes, as Sue has found, and as everybody can see, and as the evidence has shown, after I had been there, things did not go well.
And you haven't heard anything like music or partying?
No. There's a let's be absolutely clear. This is a very, very big place. There are if you take number 10 and the cabinet office together, there are hundreds of rooms. My impression was that I was personally at work events. But look, that doesn't absolve me of responsibility for what happened in this place. I take that responsibility. I continue to make sure that we make changes. I've apologised today, not just again to the House and to the country, but also to the custodians and the staff who now it turns out were wrongly and badly treated. I think it's repugnant that happened, but I think the best thing I can do now, without in any way wishing to minimise what has happened, is simply get on with delivering on the priorities of the people, and that is what we are going to do with it. And I'm sorry to say I have to leave you all now.
Come on, Prime Minister. Can I have a question?
Okay, I'll take 3 more questions, but I was under strict instructions to agree to no more than 9. But such is my natural generosity of soul. I will go to Pippa Crerar.
From the Mirror. Prime Minister, you say that Sue Gray, that no individual gathering was swept under the carpet by Sue Gray, but there was one very striking omission, which was the gathering in your flat on November 13th, 2020, which she started investigating and then says in her report that she paused when the police started looking at it, and then concluded, after the police closed their investigation, that she wasn't going to carry on that investigation. So in the absence of any other explanation, what were you, your wife, and 5 aides doing for several hours with alcohol and snacks in your flat that evening?
Yeah.
Specifically, did you or any of your senior political team see her report before this morning and either have any role in editing it or requesting the removal of any facts about gatherings in Daunинг-стріт?
No, the first I saw the report and read it in its entirety was at and to the best of my knowledge, the first of any of my team saw it was at when we got it at 10 o'clock, I think shortly after 10 o'clock this morning. And when I said earlier on, somebody said there were things in it that were news to me. What I meant by that, there was evidence and details that I simply hadn't heard before, and maybe they'd have been published before, but I simply hadn't heard them. So on the Daunинг-стріт flat, what Sue says in her previous interim report is the flat has a dual use. Historically, prime ministers have used it for meetings. The event in question was a work meeting, and that was what the Metropolitan Police did investigate it, and that was certainly the outcome of their investigation. Andrew
Mark from LBC. It's absolutely blatantly obvious from Sue Gray's report that the staff involved knew they were breaking the rules. They talked about going out by back entrances, avoiding the cameras, and so on. You told us, you told the House of Commons, you told the British people again and again that no rules were broken. When those stories started to come out about the parties, did it never occur to you to ask around and find out what had happened?
Yes, of course, and that's when I instituted the inquiry. Who's next?
Did you start liking?
Well, look, I mean, I'm not. Ben.
Prime Minister, I know you don't want to get into specific people, but the report does clearly lay out a lot of evidence about Martin Reynolds, who ran your private office. He invited everyone to the Bring Your Own Booze party. He said he thought they got away with it. He is still in your government. He's in the Foreign Office, and reportedly he's being sent on an ambassadorial post. Can you explain to the public why you're keeping him in post?
Look, I'm not. I really am not going to get into the business of identifying any particular official over any other, or any or political appointee or anybody in this whole affair. I think it's right. So in the pictures that Sue Gray has put out, I think it's entirely right that I should be the one who is not pixelated. I'm the person at the top. I'm making the changes. I instituted an inquiry. I don't think anybody, just to repeat my point, I don't think anybody could fairly say that what Sue Gray has done is to cover things up or put things under the carpet. It is a very thorough and extensive piece of work. It covers all sorts of events. What we need to do now is learn from what happened, and I'm not saying I minimise what has happened, but we have a huge amount of business that the government is getting on with right now, mainly to do with the cost of living, mainly to do with the economy, and we really need to focus on that. And with that, I'm afraid, having given three more answers than was promised, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you.